followers, he has set an example of
This is
hatred
exactly what
and
y'all do.
racism.
This, bro,
That's the
you
why
not
don't
answering this
let
question. I want to hand out. I want to hand out the gift of knowledge tonight.
Merry Christmas. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, we'll.
Oh,
I was familiar with some of his work from this. I guess it was a series of movies that I started watching a few years ago called Hidden Colors, and on that series of movies, he had a lot of interesting topics and discussions that he talked about in there. So that's how he was first brought to my attention.
Okay. Okay. So when you researched it, tell me what you guys thought about it based on what conversation we had the last time that we spoke.
Well, personally, the thing that drew him to me in the first place when I was watching those videos, the movies a few years ago here in Colors, he was talking about the whole Black Wall Street thing from back then, also to Black ownership now. A lot of the principles that he talked about, for example, he talked about how in politics, for example, and I guess that's a little bit too broad to say just in politics. So I guess I'll say in better in the community. I guess I should say because politics is one aspect of better in the community. He talked about these principles. For example, he looked at it in terms of a building, like first floor, second floor, third floor, and so on. So I don't remember exactly the order, but this was an example of how he described it in the building. He said, but basically the first floor is the judicial system, the second
mm-hmm.
floor being the educational system, the third floor being politics or something along those lines. I think that's valuable in helping Black people look at politics specifically in a different way
Mm-hmm.
because when we, like I said in the last podcast, collectively, Black people, instead of looking for I'm gonna say for a overall solution, we're looking to put a band-aid on it. And by that, the method that we have been using, I consider it a band-aid method. The method that Claude Anderson spoke of, I feel like that's more of an actual cure to the systematic disease itself.
Okay. What was your take from it, Jacob?
well, as a progressive mind, especially being with the age that I am, it's very common for me to think the same ways as other progressives. But I've always had to. I think that my views have always aligned with Clyde Anderson. One being that I firmly believe that Barack Obama, why he stood for something absolutely nothing for Black people. Another thing is when he was talking about his seven, I think it was 6 or 7 step plan, how we can better the Black community. Those are some of the things that when I sit at home and I think, how if I were in a position of power, how can I better the Black community? Those are definitely some of the things I could agree with. One being, we need to take our money out of white people's hands and build our own land. We need to, because he also said, your value is determined upon how much land you own. So, we need to have our own space to do whatever, build our own Black Wall Street, all different things like that. I think Dr. Claude Anderson really got me thinking because I watched this video yesterday. That person where if I hear something, right, I'll forget it. So I had to listen to it yesterday so I wouldn't forget it for today because I was very excited about this topic. But Dr. Claude Anderson really got me thinking about how it is that we can better the Black community. And I think that one way is one by being united as a people. And as a people, we haven't done that. You have a lot of Black people who tend to flip towards the other side or think a different way, conservative. So I think that once we become united, then we can definitely do things as a united front and be stronger because of that. I that listening to
But
Dr. open
this
up
is
my eyes
what
that I agree with, right, is when I listen to him, it's like, well, Jacob, like it doesn't really make too much sense. So listen to him really open guys, and I'm very happy that you shared that link with me. If you haven't listened to him, people, I'm telling you, this man is genius. Genius. So take the time, go out and enrich yourself, enrich the Black community, and better yourself in the Black community. Definitely, that's what he brings.
Okay. Well, with listening to him, also when he talks about the 5 steps and he lists things that we need to demand, and spoke a lot about a southern train line that would start from Atlanta and would end in Dallas. And he said it'd go through Shreveport. And he picked anywhere between 4 to 5 different cities, Black cities, that he felt like if that train line went through there, it would generate jobs and wealth. But he also talked about monies that belonged in like the Freeman bank accounts, that laws have already been passed, that money should have already been redistributed, but it hasn't been. He also talked a little bit about the Indians from when they had slaves and how much we were supposed to inherit from those casino talks. With all that, and knowing that a lot of that has already been passed, it just needs to be pushed and said, hey, let's get this on the way, Supreme Court, because we've already discussed this. What are some of your expectations from the Biden campaign starting in 2020? Jacob, I'll start with you.
Definitely, I think that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, while it is important for us to have the first Black female vice president, excuse me, to ever be in that office, I think that's, she likes to tend to this. Brother told her, while you may be the first, make sure that you're not the last, right? So I definitely think it's about creating generational wealth and taking Black people out of the poverty and the devastation that we've been in. Look at it, how different people come from different countries and they different type of accesses to rights. So when I look at it, right, you have Indians, not Native Americans, but you have Indians who come 7, 6, 10 gas stations, one grocery store or Walmart, and then you got the Black community that's still struggling. So what I think from the Biden community is the people that put you into this office is the Black woman. The Black woman definitely puts you into this office. That it in his acceptance speech. So I think you can't talk about it. I think you have to be about it. And right now, he's putting a lot of people into power. I think right now we will have the first, if accepted, first Black defense secretary, first Black transportation secretary, type of things like that. So you're electing people into power, right? But you need to give them the free reign to do it in the Black community. One thing that I expect from Joe Biden how are you going to reverse? And I understand you can't reverse it in 4 years or 8 years, but how are you going to reverse some of the devastation that's happening? Give us more jobs, or you're going to opportunity, or you give us more money. Because when you look at it, whenever you graduate college, like I've told people, you're three times more likely not to get a job just because you are not to get hired or even called because you are Black. You're 8 times more likely not to even do a job that you graduated with a degree with. So I think when I'm talking to Joe Biden, if I ever had the chance to talk to him, how is the Black community money into our pockets? Are you going to invest into the Black community, putting more lucrative businesses for Black to thrive off of, right? And then another thing I want to talk about is reparations. When is that money going to come? And one thing that Dr. Anderson talked about is setting up now where Black people can go to that bank and not have a loan over 2%, where they can loan some money and start businesses, right? And we speak about the railway system. If that was to ever happen, because he said that Obama enacted something where it's $500 million already in plan, where we can just take that money, investing in it right now. My thing is, if it's already there, you have money, let's put it into the Black community. Let's start doing stuff for the Black community, because it builds wealth and it builds generational wealth that aren't consistently struggling. It frustrates me as a young Black American to look at it and say, my ancestors built this country, and the Black community is still struggling. But you have Indians and you have Mexicans and you have the different type of immigrants, and basically getting whatever. So when it's going to be our time as the Black community? When are we going to have our time to shine? So the Biden administration needs to put their money where their mouth is and absolutely work for the Black people. And like Dr. Claude Anderson said, help the same people that got you into office be the same that you're. So if he's not doing that, then I can guarantee you that when 2020 comes around, if he runs for re-election, it will not be Joe I'm voting for. Guarantee you that.
Okay, Ransom, what's your thoughts? What do you think the expectation will be? I know that your president is on his way out in January. So at this point, you will be doing like what many Trump supporters will be doing. We'll just fall in line. What do you expect from this administration starting in 2021?
Well, I know I just sent you this clip. I just sent you this the clip, and the clip is maybe like 45 seconds or so. I'm not sure if you've already watched it on your own time, but if you haven't, when you get a chance, I want you to watch it. And the clip I'm referencing, I want to speak on this briefly.
Okay.
Now, with this particular, I want to put in context what it is, where what the clip is. This particular clip is from a show called the Savoy Show. I'm not real familiar with her, but I've heard of her and seen the show in passing. So on this particular day, this was shortly after the election. On this particular episode, that it was Joe Biden on this episode. So she had the president-elect Joe Biden. It's real. I'm gonna attempt to play the audio, but I want you guys to try to listen to the audio. If you can't hear it good, I'll just reiterate on what was said, but I want to play the audio first.
Okay.
It's real. For 25 years as a United States Senator. Before, Sherilyn, you were even involved. I started off, I'm much older than you. That's why I got involved in politics. If in case you haven't looked, we have the largest voting right, Kristen, my operation, 1,000 lawyers, bigger than you or anybody else out there on voting rights.
Not include, unless something happened since we've been talking, paid family and medical leave.
Yes, it does. No, it does include. It does include paid family medical leave.
It doesn't have enough.
Well, it has more than, I don't think you've read it. It has significant.
Okay, yeah, I've been reading it, and that's something may have happened since, but it was 1.8 million was going to take for the.
Okay, that was about 52 seconds of that interview. So I know you guys weren't able to see it, so I'll put in context the panel. Again, you had Joe Biden, the host of the show, Savoy, and along on this particular panel, you had Al Sharpton, you had 3 Black lady politicians. I want to get their names to be precise, but just to speak on what was going on in that particular 1-minute clip, Joe Biden showed me and the world exactly who he is, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. The same people that bent over backwards were the same that helped Joe Biden get in office, the same Black people that sat on that panel who were practically shaming their Black family and friends for not towing the Democratic line. These are the same people who, as Jacob mentioned, spoke on what do we want our president to do. So they had this particular sit down. They had this particular meeting right after Joe Biden was elected, right? Now, for anybody to actually see, you can hear it in the dialogue, but you have to actually visually see the disrespect and the disdain that Joe Biden was speaking to these Black people with. Again, you got people like I'm looking at Al Sharpton. In my entire life of knowing who Al Sharpton was, I've never seen or heard this man be hush mouth. Al Sharpton and the fact, now I'm not a fan of this group of black people, and the reason why is because I feel like they constantly sell us out. But with that being said, as Al Sharpton, I would think that he's supposed to be our quote unquote leader. He allowed these black women to be disrespected by Joe Biden up there. I'm going to play this other clip that's about 30 seconds that coincides with it. This was Roland Martin talking about this same particular interview. This was his take on it. And
Well, go ahead and play it, and I'll come back. Go ahead.
Okay.
And I got no problem saying it. Joe Biden, you need to watch your tone. You need to watch your tone. Kamala Harris needs to pull Joe Biden aside. Joe, you might want to watch your tone. Joe Biden, he did during the debate, and he did it here where I did this and I did that, I did this and I did that. That was last week. Now, first of all, let's be real clear. That works fine in a debate because you're trying to establish what I've done.
Right.
The reality is this for black folks. Joe, what you've done the last 47 years is irrelevant to where we are today. It's what you're going to do the next 4 years that's going to matter.
Okay. I wanna say one more thing about this, Don, and before I pass it back to you, and Jacob mentioned it earlier. He said Joe Biden got in office with the help of the black woman. And there's a speck of truth in that, but the truth is he used the black woman. So with that being said, it's not like what Roland Martin said, Kamala Harris needs to pull him aside and have a word with him. Like, I'm trying to figure out first of all, Kamala Harris is not going to pull him aside because she don't see anything wrong with what he's doing or saying. And secondly, how is she going to pull him aside and check him about anything that he's doing or saying? And he talked to her the same way during the primary. So right now,
and
it's like,
expect really too much out the campaign because there's no respect for the black community.
period. But me personally, none of this comes as a surprise to me. I mean, let's be honest. I mentioned this on the last podcast. Joe Biden went on the Breakfast Club earlier this year and jokingly said, now, mind you, again, we all know who Joe Biden is at this point, but I just want to put it into perspective. Picture any 70-plus-year-old silver-haired white man telling a black person, if you have to question if you're going to vote for me, then you're not black. Questioning your blackness. So it's like, but black people gave him a pass for it. Black people not only did they give him a pass, though. I literally heard black people tell me, I don't care what he said, because what was the thing that we were stuck on again? And I quote, the lesser of two evils. And they're starting to get a glimpse now of that the lesser of the two evils is not really the lesser. He just hid his evil better than the person that they hated.
Okay.
What I'll say to that is this, right? One, whenever Barack Obama sat in office for 8 years, while Barack Obama did great things for the hopes of black people, he didn't do anything to help black people. The problem is that throughout his whole entire 8 years, we never, as black people, came to Barack Obama and said, "Hey, you black people," and we never held him accountable. So it would be incorrect for us to do that the same for Trump or for President-elect Biden, right? So what I think the problem is that have we held Barack Obama to a different standard, saying that, hey, you are the first black president. When you came in, you said, I'm not the president for black people, I'm the president for all people. That's where you first messed up, right? You take care of your people first, and then you take care of everybody else. That's just my mindset. That's where we messed up, right? We never held Barack Obama accountable. So how can you hold Biden accountable for that? Now, what I will say is this. It is the 24th. We have approximately 29, 28 days until
the inauguration.
Joe Biden takes office. So we have to wait and see what Joe Biden actually does. Why I said that the things that he promised us during the campaign, right, bringing us out of the impoverished and bringing jobs and bringing us more money and putting Black women first, because as we know, those are the most unprotected people in America or on the face of the earth, practically, right? Until he does that, then hold him accountable, right? But what I think the confusion comes is when you have someone who supports, whether it be a Black man or a white man or a Black woman or a white woman or Hispanic, right? When somebody supports Trump, what they don't realize is that when Trump came into office, he promised all these things, right? All these things, such as going to get us more jobs, going to get us more wealth. He's going to bring us out of the impoverished.
He
He's going
did all of that though. He
to.
did everything that you're
But
saying that
he never
he
did.
did.
So
He
when
did
you
all of that.
So when you look at it, hold on, Ransom. So when you look at it, right, how is it that Black people, as a whole, hold Joe Biden to a standard that he can't even fully promise right now? Because hey, look, I'm still a president-elect. Once I get into office, then I can make things happen. How can we hold him to a standard, but we can't hold Trump to a standard when we do 4 years of
Not
disaster?
standard. What do you expect? You said we need to start accountable. So we have to give them our expectations first.
Oh,
But
most.
hold on. But let me say this.
But what I'm is this. What I'm saying is this. This is what I'm saying. Okay, we have to give Joe Biden his expectations, right? One thing that I think we mess up as a Black person, as Black people, is that we gave our vote to a person when we didn't lay out a Black agenda. Whenever you come to a person who's running for political, give them a Black agenda. You say, hey, this is what I want for my Black community. If you don't get it, then you're not getting my vote. And I don't give a damn if he's Republican, Independent, Green Party, Tea Party, or Democrat. If this person says he's going to give it to the Black people, that's the person I'm voting for. So one thing, I think that's because we didn't give a Black agenda. But when I talk about holding somebody accountable, how can you hold Joe Biden accountable for anything and he ain't had the chance to do nothing? He's the
No,
president.
I would say I agree. I agree.
Hold on, Ransom. I'll let you play two videos. So when you sit and you allow the president, the current president, to sit there and bash our people, bash our movement, bash our hurt, and not acknowledge our pain, how is it that we can hold Joe Biden accountable, but we can't hold Trump? I think we have to give, I think we have to give Trump, I mean, not, I think we have to give Biden a chance do what it is that he said he was going to do. And then if he doesn't hold to, the expectations of what we have for him, then hey, Joe Biden, when you run for 4 years, we're gonna be a foot up your ass for these 3-4 years. And if you don't hold to it, then okay. Joe Biden, when it comes to 2024, I guarantee you I won't be voting for you no more. That's what we have to do as a Black person, as Black people. Because what we do is we sit here and we say, oh, well, this person isn't doing it for me, and this person isn't doing it for me. We're gonna blame this person who hasn't even had a chance yet. Give this man a chance to do what it is that he said he's gonna do, and then we start saying, okay, look, you said you're gonna do this, you ain't do that. We gotta hold you accountable.
That's fair enough. That's fair enough.
I totally. I was gonna say I agree with what he said about Barack Obama not being held accountable by Black people. But here's the thing, and now somebody else let me know if you have heard this or not. For the 8 years that Barack Obama was in office, and even since he's been out for the last 4 years, and honestly, you if you ask this question 20 years from now, you will still get most Black people, especially who were alive during his presidency, they're going to give you one or two answers. I asked Black people what did Barack Obama's presidency mean to you as a Black person? I asked Black people, what did Barack Obama do for Black people? The number one answer across the board, just to put it in perspective, I've asked men this, I've asked women this, I've asked Black people this all over the country. So it's not like I just asked like one small pocket of people in just one small neighborhood or something. So the number one response that I've gotten from Black people across the board, and they say this to a man, well, him just being elected president is enough for Black people. Now, just think about that, right? I agree with what Jacob said to the point to where Black people did not hold Barack Obama accountable, and I'll be the first to say that. And the reason why, because it's for that very same answer that I just said. Most of us collectively feel like he didn't have to pass any bills, he didn't have to pass any policies, he didn't have to actually stop the oppression because him just being in office was enough. And you have grown adult, supposedly sane black people who will say this. So that's why I can't take them serious when they try to voice their political views. Like you never even expected nothing from. Now I'm gonna give you a good example. Barack Obama was in office for 8 years. We can go back to I want to say I think Trayvon Martin, the situation where he was unfortunately murdered was that was the first highly publicized case on his watch as far as an unarmed black person being killed by police officers. Well, he wasn't even a police officer, Zimmerman, but that was the first high publicized case. But it didn't just stop there. You had Eric Gardner, you had Sandra Bland, and a list of other black people who lost their life unarmed at the hand of law enforcement, right? Now, I remember specifically, now when I want to just remind people personally, I voted for Barack Obama twice. So, and the first time definitely, I was all in. I was all on board with Barack Obama. So much so to the point where I even voted for him the second time. I remember the exact moment that I was like, fuck Barack Obama, and I got off that bandwagon. And it was actually the week, it was the day after Trayvon Martin's killer, George Zimmerman, had got off. And people were trying to make the argument that okay, well, he's the president, he can't get involved on the local level when it comes to law. I get that. I don't need people to explain the finer points of government because I get that. But here's the thing. Here's the thing that blew me off with it. That very same week, he got on TV talking about how we're sending billions of dollars with a B and hundreds, if not thousands, of troops to Syria to secure their streets because, as per his words, and I quote, the people of Syria can't walk the streets safely without being murdered and oppressed. Well, I'm like, fuck, we got the same thing going on here with kids being murdered in the street. But you gonna tell me you can't intervene on that level, but at the same time you can intervene based on what you say this is the reason because if you're either I keep saying it either you're for stopping wrong or you're not. You can't choose to say okay, well I want to stop wrong only on Tuesday. I want to stop wrong only in China. I want to stop wrong only when it comes to Asian people. Like you can't choose to say oh, when you want to stop wrong. And that was the beginning of my getting off the bandwagon with Barack Obama. It's like he didn't do anything for us, but at the same time, when you fast forward to somebody like Trump, right? Now, of course, we've had unfortunately incidents where people were murdered, black people were
Yeah,
murdered at the hands of police officers, right?
brought that up and said he did do things that he promised. What were those things you were referencing to? Uh, you were telling Jacob he did do those things. What are those things you were saying that Trump?
Hold on, say one more time.
When Jacob was speaking earlier that Trump wasn't doing all the things that he promised during his
Oh,
campaign, he stated that he did those things. What things were you talking about?
specifically, and we going back to like 2000 to January 2017 because that was when he got elected in office or whatever. That was after he was inaugurated in. That within that same month of January, he had already started pulling jobs back for a company specifically was Black and Decker. That was just one of these industrial companies that American companies that Democrats, people like Bill Clinton, were responsible for throwing overseas. My thing is, I know a lot of people hear me talking. People would assume that I'm quote unquote I'm a Republican. Honestly, I don't box myself into any of those ideologies, whether Republican or Democrat. But at the same time, I'm looking at the policies of who's setting what, and
Okay.
not only for the policies that affect me individually, but also the policies that affect Black people collectively.
Unity.
And personally, that's one of the reasons why I personally stopped even though like I said, I never consider myself a quote unquote Democrat, but that was the reason why I stopped even. The last time I voted was Democrat. As I said, the last time that I voted was for Barack Obama the second time, and that was Democrat both times. and I'm gonna tell you the honest truth. I'm gonna say what a lot of black people refuse to admit. The only reason why I voted the first time I voted for Barack Obama only because he was black, and I'll admit that while most black people won't. Number two, I voted for him both times because he was a Democrat. Why? Because in my entire life, every black person that I've ever known was a Democrat. They told me that's what I should be. I had no reason to question it. I didn't put no thought into it. So when I was old enough to vote, I went to the polls and I did what everybody told me I should do. And I'm
Right.
being honest about that.
Okay. And Jacob, what were you about to say? You have
All
to.
right, I'm mute myself. So this is what I'll say. Once we go back, let's talk about Trump, right? Hold on, let me close this door. I don't think that'll make a difference, but I hope it does because they being loud out there. But anyways, once again, Merry Christmas. But anyways, when we talk about what Trump promised, right? Trump came in on the premise that I'm going to build a wall. Now, Ransom, correct me if I'm wrong. Has there been a wall built?
No, there hasn't been a wall built, but let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question about the wall.
Okay, two, Trump said that he's going to lower the national debt. Has national debt been lowered?
You asking that question after
national debt been lowered?
Let me answer that question. Let me answer that question.
It's a yes or no. 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 Because Ransom.
Prior to the shutdowns of this country that had nothing to do with
Trump.
What you mean? He didn't even want to shut it down. What you mean? He didn't even want. He didn't even want. He did not even want to shut it down.
Hold on, Mr. Ransom. I'll answer your question for you. The answer is no. The national debt.
Okay. No. Let me ask you a question. You brought up the wall.
Wait.
You brought up the wall.
Hold on, Mr. Ransom. Hold on.
But you brought up the wall. I want to get to what you asked me about.
Let's keep peace. So then Trump comes in. You talk about his first 100 days in office. What else did Trump do in his first 100 days in office? Okay, I don't know. He bombed the country. He banned Muslims, and then he went on the attack against immigrants. So how is it that after all these three things, we say Trump is a really good president? This is what he did for black people. He ain't did shit for black people. He just defamed our fucking name as a country, right?
Let me know when you finish so I can give you some facts.
Wait. Hold on. This is my time. So look. So this is another thing I would say. As a person who has been deployed, right, and I hope that you have, right? I remember that you served. As a person that's been deployed to other countries, I sat 90 miles away from North Korea about a year ago. And when you talked about Barack Obama taking troops out of different countries and all this other good stuff. As a person that's been deployed, I used to think, okay, I think it's better if we sit at home and we don't do things for other countries because what's happening in our country? Why can't we take care of the things that's in our country, right? But when you look at the things that was happening in Syria and happening in Iran, these people literally have it better than black people. When you have a national leader who bombs their own citizens with gases and makes it hard for them to even get a fair education. Women can't get education over there. Children barely get over there, and they're getting bombed every single day. So I think as a person who's been deployed, that's the one perspective that I'll get out of this. As a person who's been deployed, I understand why it is that military bases and military people are set in places that they are, because from a strategic level, it helps us as a country deal with things in other countries where, hey, it's not right for you to your people. And then if you do, I have these people myself, 19 kilo as a tanker, to come in.
Right.
This is something else I would say, right? Okay, so when I said that Barack Obama didn't do anything for black people, what I meant by what I should have elaborated on is that Barack Obama gave a law for whites, he gave a law for gays, he gave a law for Native Americans, he gave a law for for Mexicans, but he didn't give a law for black people. But what Barack Obama did was he inspired the hope into where that if you are a child or if you were at my age at the time when I was 14 when he got, you thought at that point you could make it to that level, right? And then you want to talk about what Trump didn't do, right? Trump loves to sit here and tote this, oh, this unemployment from across all spectrums. He has lowest unemployment across all spectrums. But it's almost as if this trend hasn't been following for the past 10 years. So what I'll say to you, Ransom, is this, right? We want to hold Joe Biden accountable, and we want to say, Joe Biden, this is where you need to do this, and this is what you need to do to make Black people's lives better. But we never did that for Trump. What Trump did was, which really baffles me as a Black American, because I never understand why people who are Mexican or who are Black vote for Trump, right? But I also understand that you vote what's based off your household. But I think that as a person in 2020, if you voted for Trump, then you're selfish. Because if you look at it, if you're a Black person and you voted for Trump and you see the oppression that's happening to your people, and you don't vote based off what's best for your people, then you're a selfish person, right? So what
Okay,
Trump
I'm gonna
was,
go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and jump in here, man.
past 4 years, Mr. Ransom, for the past 4 years, he has hurt us. He has neglected us. He has not helped us. The Platinum Plan will not work for us. What did he do when he first came into office? He gave a 75% cut off the taxes for the top 10%. And did you know that your taxes increased 2.7% from the time that he enacted that until 2027? So what is it that he's really doing for Black people? When you want to talk about him doing prison reform, when you look at the clemency rates, even now, this CNN, Fox, MSNBC, all these news medias just came out and talking about who he's giving clemency to and who he's giving pardons to. These are all the peoples who worked and did dirty dirt.
I'm going to talk about those
Okay.
parts.
So you really have to really have to ask, what did
I'm
Trump?
gonna. First, I have to go back into something you said at the beginning.
Hold on, wait. And
you
I think
me,
the problem is, hold on, Ransom. I think the problem is that as Black people, what we fell on as Black people is we don't come to. If my Ain't None Trees is running for office, I will come together with Black people and I'll say, hey, this is our demands, Ain't None Trees. And if you ain't meeting it, then you ain't getting our fucking vote. But if Ransom is meeting it, then Ransom is getting our vote. Now I don't give a damn if Ransom is Republican. Trump came into office and he promised all these things to Black folks and he promised all these things for regular Americans and he didn't do it. So as a Republican, when you sit and then you sit how hateful he is right now with him losing, even though he's lost the election 40 days ago, right? You sit and see how unpresidential he is. Why is it that y'all continue to support a president who isn't presidential, who doesn't?
Like, I'm not. Look, okay. First, I'm gonna go back to something you asked me at the beginning. You asked me about the wall, and my question for you when you brought up the wall at the end, because I was under the impression that most people in this country didn't even want the wall. So when you asked me about the wall, well, did he get the wall up as though, I guess, to try to shed light on if that was one of his accomplishments that he got done?
But that's
I can't. Oh, no. You talk.
That's how he won the election based off race.
You talk. It's my turn. It's my turn. So as I was saying, you brought up the wall as trying to shed some light. As like, but you brought up the wall as an asinine fact to try to like. I never cared about the wall, and honestly, I don't know nobody who, whether they were pro Trump or not for Trump, that was walking around the country saying 2 years into his presidency, saying, you know what, we gotta get this wall up. No, I let you talk. So, and then, I appreciate you bringing me up to speed on the finer points of being deployed around the world, but I was deployed around the world twice. So let me interest you in this fact. Your Barack Obama, you spoke on the foreign policy of what Trump was doing. You also spoke on enlightening me on why we have military presence around the world. Well, let me speak on that. Let me interest you in the fact that Barack Obama in Syria alone was responsible for killing over 8,000 civilians with drone strikes during his 8 years there. But see, since it didn't happen in Harlem, since it didn't happen in Oakland, since it didn't happen in Shreveport or anywhere in this country, no, black people don't care about the atrocities that Barack Obama committed around the world. And that's just from drawn. And for the record, I'm gonna also bring another fact to your attention that I'm sure you're not aware of. The drone attacks that he was responsible for, he killed more civilians than even Bush. And Bush, the whole drone program started under Bush. So you're shaking your head in disbelief. I get it. I understand this. You're hearing it for the first time. Facts. Then you made the whole thing. I said a few minutes ago. I said there are two things when you ask black people what was Barack Obama's accomplishment. I said there were two things. I said the first thing they always say is, well, just him being in office is enough. You want to know what that second thing is? That you said it, and I'm glad you said it. Him, because he gave our kids the hope. He gave like, my question is this, and I said this when Barack Obama was in office. As I'm not a parent, but I have nieces, I have nephews, I have little cousins who are kids that I care about, that I would give good advice to, that I hope they would take and use. My point for saying that, as a child's parent, if you as the parent is not already telling the child, hey, you could be president, hey, you could be MVP, hey, you could be this, that. If why as a parent, as a black parent, did you ever need to see a black man in office for you to tell your child what they could grow up and be the best? In my opinion, if as a parent you needed that, then you're a horrible parent. A horrible parent. Then you spoke on the fact that, okay, it's as a black person, in your opinion, it's selfish for a black. Basically, what you said was it's selfish for any black person to vote for who you don't agree with. That's complete bullshit. No, no, no. And I'm gonna tell you why that's bullshit. For the sake of argument, even being in the military, from E1 to E9, we all have different pay grades. I don't expect a E1 to vote the same way a E9 or a O5 will vote, because I'm smart enough to realize, well, damn, they may their income may be a little bit different. So that alone would dictate that they would vote differently. What you're speaking of, that's what I was talking to somebody earlier today about this. What I'm gonna say, and that's one of the major diseases that black people is affected with. The idea and the notion that I have to like you personally to get something from you. That's a flawed mentality to have, because we're the only group or race of people that think that way. I know white men who you will never see these motherfuckers go to each other's house, who don't like each other, but guess what? They gonna show up to the office every day and they gonna get this money together. We the only group of people that think that we have to like each other and get along to get money. And if even for the sake of argument, it don't even have to be about money. I don't have to agree with you to accomplish a goal that at the end of the day, we
But
like I don't like the idea that I don't like the idea that as black people, and we're the only group of people that do this. I've never seen a group of Asians get together and basically bully another Asian into saying, who you vote for? Okay, well, we're voting for Dick Cheney. You better vote for Dick Cheney. Like, black people are the only ones who do that. And here's the craziest part to me about that. We're the only ones who do that, yet we get the least out of it. Why is that?
so
Okay,
th-
we're coming,
wait,
fellas.
wait, wait. Hold on,
Hey,
Natrice. I'm sorry.
go
I
ahead.
know you want the next question, but this is what I want to say. One,
Go
uh,
ahead.
I don't think a lot of Asians was voting for Dick Cheney. I'm not gonna lie
No,
to you.
I
A lot of
said that as an example. Period.
I understand, but I'm just saying it to be funny. A lot of Asians wars they weren't voting for Bush or Dick Cheney. But this is what I will say, right? We started this conversation. We're talking about demands, right? And the demands are, one, we want, if you want to build back a Black Wall Street like we were just discussing, right? These are the things. These are the ways we do it. We take the money out of out of white America. We put it into black pockets. We build a railroad system that runs from Atlanta to Dallas, Texas. It builds black jobs. It builds generational wealth. All this etc. stuff, right? But I think the only way that we progress as the black people is that we do come together and we do vote on the party lines. And we do say, you know what, this person is just not right. And I think whenever you looked at Trump for when he was running, when people were saying, Trump has no chance, when he came to Republican nominee, to when he became the president, he set an example for all Black people and for all white people, to an example of hatred, of example of distrust, and example of dishonesty. So when you look at Trump and you look at what he did in the past 4 years, the time he was running, right? This is a president who in the 70s was getting sued for being racist, for not allowing Black people to live in his apartment homes. But these are the people. This is the person that you support, right? So
Okay, well, let me ask you a question. You constantly speak about the race. No, you constantly speak about the racist issues of Donald Trump, right? But what about Joe Biden? What about Joe Biden's racist history, man?
We talk about when we talk about Trump, right? And we talk about the things that we expected from Trump. When I brought up the wall, Trump ran on the premise that he will build the wall, he will hold out immigrants, and he will be that Republican that white folks always wanted. One, he didn't build a wall, and the 16 feet of wall that he still built, the damn immigrants are still coming over it. Two, he came into office and he immediately bombed the country, a Muslim country, and then immediately immediately banned Muslims from coming into the country. Racist. Three, he talked about low unemployment. He didn't do that. That's been a trend for the past 10 years. Four, when you talk about him being non-racist, whenever you look at everything he said and everything he's done over the past 4 years, he has been exactly that. So like I said, it baffles me whenever Black people continue to support him. Now, this is another.
I hear you on that, right? But I hear you.
Hold on, Ransom.
What about Joe Biden, though? Why does it bother you when Joe Biden's racist?
Now, you brought up the military. You brought up E1 through E9, right? You're not expecting us to vote in the same party because of money, but that's not what I'm saying. As a Black person, whether you are an E1 or you are an E9 or you are 05 or you're 01 or you are a CW1 to CW5, right? Speaking for Army, because I know you love your Navy stuff, but I'm speaking for Army, right? If whatever rank you are, the point I was trying to make is that as I am a Black American before I'm a soldier, and I just got done telling my commanders this, I am a Black soldier. I'm a Black man before I'm a Black soldier. So when I come to the voting poll and I say, you know what, I'm going to vote for Trump, that is an absolute issue, because for a long time, Trump has done absolutely nothing to support us. He's done absolutely nothing to enrich us. He has done absolutely nothing to embetter us. When you look at it, Trump just this weekend just said, you know what, I support the $2,000 stimulus plan for each family to get $2,000 to the end of the
talk about that, yeah.
Right?
But here's the thing, though. What you're saying is flawed, and I'm gonna tell you why what you're saying is flawed. Because what you're saying is flawed.
Now, Mr. Ransom, hold on. If he really supported it, he would have came out and said something. But the point that Trump is trying to make is that, one, the election was stolen, and that two, that we should automatically give him our support because this is what he's done for Black people, as if, like I've said before, like this trend has not been following him.
You keep saying it. When did he say that? When did he say that?
Following for the past 10 years. Bro, Trump is an
let me ask you a question. No. I want to ask you a question. I want to ask you a question. My question for you is, you seem like a person who is against racism because you keep saying that. So this is my question for you. First of all, I want to say we all should be against racism. Let me first state that.
And you got 1 minute to this up and go to the next question. Go.
Okay. This is my question for you, Jacob. Again, you keep harping on the racist crimes and the racist things that Donald Trump doing that you keep saying, right? But why doesn't it bother you about the racist issues that Joe Biden himself is responsible for? Why doesn't it bother you that this man himself actually has ties to the Ku Klux Klan? Like, why does that stuff not bother you? I would like to know.
Now, can I answer it? Can I answer it? I can answer it? Okay, because I'll tell you why. The same person that's in the Ku Klux Klan, the leader of the Ku Klux Klan, is not voting for Joe Biden. And the same person that says I'm going to build a wall to keep Mexicans out is not
But
voting.
you didn't hear what I said though.
The
Maybe
same
you didn't either you didn't hear
Donald
what I said or
Trump,
you're not answering the
Donald
question.
Trump from
No,
the beginning.
either
Now
you
wait.
avoiding the question or you didn't hear what I said.
From the beginning, Donald Trump has set an example to
No,
his
I asked you, bro. I asked you about
right wing,
values.
to his super right wing followers. He has set an example of
This is
hatred
exactly what
and
y'all do.
racism.
This, bro,
That's
you
why
not answering the question. You didn't
so
answer
you
the question.
the black man when
You did
why
not answer the question.
Black American, it confuses me as to why you vote for him. As you
No,
as a
what confuses me is
but
why you want to avoid the question. You're avoiding the question, bro. You avoiding the question.
That you support a
You
person
avoiding the
who has
question.
the same vote from the Ku Klux Klan?
You didn't answer the question,
I,
and I know why you didn't answer the question. You didn't answer the question for the same reason that all black Democrats not gonna answer the question. And I'm gonna answer that question for you.
I answered the question. I simply answered the question. The same person that's in the KKK is not voting for Joe Biden.
The answer, y'all, you only okay with racist people. You hate racist people in the Republican Party, but you okay with the racist people in the Democratic Party, and you won't admit that.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Now, I'm going to read you guys two statements. One of them is from, and I believe his name is William Buckley. And another one is going to be James Baldwin, not the actor, but the SS. He was known for doing a lot of public speech. One of his famous speeches, they said that you could hear a pin drop when he was speaking in a group
of writer.
People. But I'm going to read you two statements. And with these two statements, I want you to tell me how you feel it relates to the racial climate of today. So William Buckley made a statement and he said, "Why the South must prevail." That was the title of the speech he gave that day when he presented it before congressmen. And one of the things that he said was that whites were the advanced race at that time. So with his thinking, he thought and advised the South to take such measures to prevail politically and culturally. And then within that same time frame, that same year, James Baldwin did a speech and he stated that whites are scared of the black race to rise due to the fact that they feel their race gives them morally and special, like a type of privilege or value because of their race. So with the climate of today, do you think that that is how people are thinking? And do you feel that as a black race in the South, that we have grown politically or culturally?
I would like to think we have, but the fact is, I know we haven't. And the reason why I say I know we haven't is because Jacob said something a few minutes ago. He said in his example, if and I quote, if in 3 years, 3.5 years, if Joe Biden has proven that he has not did anything for black people, then we're not voting for him in 2024. I 130% disagree with that. Why? Because what will make the next Democrat any different? And that's my problem with black people and the Democratic Party. You know what? I compare it, honestly, I really compare it to an abusive relationship. And I'm gonna explain exactly what I mean. Black people are constantly being abused by the Democratic Party, but we love them so much, we won't just leave. We don't even care that, like what was it that we said? The lesser of two evils. If that's not somebody that's mentally trained to stay in their messed up situation, then nothing will convince you otherwise.
Jacob?
Now, one, I did not say that. Ransom is cutting out on some. I said that while Joe Biden is showing a good example by hiring, or not hiring, but putting people in power that never been empowered by, for example, the first immigrant or Mexican American to be the Secretary of Education, transportation, all these different nominees to be the first Native American for HUD, right? What I said is that if day one he isn't enacting laws that does not help the black people, then we hold him accountable, not 3 years later. So if you thought that's what I said, I'm recanting on my statement. I am letting you know that's what I mean, right? What I will say to this is this, right? we as Black people, and you just said it, and Dr. Claude Anderson spoke about it on his talk with the Breakfast Club. We as Black people have been fooled to believe that we are somehow the most important vote, when in all reality we are only 13% of this country's population. So I think as Black people, and I'll continue to say it, I think as Black people we have to come with an agenda, no matter something that Killer Mike even spoke about. We have to come with an agenda. Whoever is running, whether it be Democrat, Republican, or Independent, saying this is our agenda, this is what we want done for Black people. And if that person does not support it, then that person does not get our vote. What
if that person is Democrat though? Like you said, if let's for the sake of argument say, let's for the sake of argument say Joe Biden doesn't run in 2024, but we get another Democrat, right? But at the same time, we saw Joe Biden didn't do anything for us. At the end of the day, whether Joe Biden runs in 2024 on another Democratic ticket after he has proven that he ain't gonna do nothing for Black people, or whether Joe Biden say I'm not going to run no more and we get some new Democratic person, it does not matter, because it's not you speaking from the perspective like as though collectively Black people actually put thought into it. You know, come on, you know for a fact yourself, and I'm not even gonna say you personally, because I believe that you personally actually put thought into it. Collectively, you and I and everybody on here know collectively that Black people vote Democrat for the same reason that I said earlier. So for that reason, it's not going to matter whether Joe Biden does not do what he's going to do when he runs again, or whether he does not run again and we get somebody else. Black people are going to vote blue again, regardless of what happens. Like, it's not like are we acting like we don't know this?
But see, the question becomes this, right? If you say that, then you look at the demographics of people that voted. You will see that Trump pushed out a larger Black women's vote and a larger Black vote, period, than what he did in 2016. So you have to ask yourself, right? Even if Joe Biden doesn't live up to the expectations or the demands have for him, will we really vote for a Democrat again? No, I don't think we will, because we as Black people, and even if I may be naive in believing this, but I think that we as Black people have become in a better consciousness to believe that we are more value than what we've been held to. Right. So when you look at it, you look at us being killed in the streets and not getting enough jobs, not getting enough money, not getting enough opportunities, this, that, and the third. I don't think that we would sit there and vote for another Republican, or another Democrat, which is why I say that we have to come with a Black agenda. This is what continues to baffle me. And I will say this until the end of my life. And I don't know how long I'm gonna live. I hope the Lord blesses me with longevity. Right. But what continues to baffle me is that we have people like Claude Anderson and people like Thomas Sowell. And if you haven't listened or read any books by Thomas Sowell, I absolutely encourage you to. Mm-hmm. We have people who sit here and you say, not all Democrats and not all Republicans and not all independents really bring your best interests to the voting, to the senator, to the House, right? You should vote for the people based off of what they're going to do for you and the promises. What really confuses me, and this has nothing to go against what you just said, really confuses me as young people, what we did said, hey, we wanted Bernie Sanders, and for the longest, and I hope you can agree to this, Bernie Sanders has been running on a Black agenda.
No, right? I would say this. I like Bernie Sanders.
What and I do too, and I wish that he was a president-elect. But
you know what? I would say this about Bernie Sanders.
What happened is that young supporters didn't go out there and vote for him. So I disagree with you. I don't think that we'll be played for a fool again, or maybe we will, and maybe someday.
But you just said it though.
I honestly hope that we do learn from our mistakes. And if Joe Biden doesn't hold up to the expectations, that we hold him accountable, and we hold the next Democrat or Republican or Independent or Tea Party or Green Party person accountable.
But you just said it. You just said it. You mentioned how young people then come stand up for Bernie Sanders. I would say one thing again. I don't consider myself to be either side, but and that's why I can say I could stand back from the crowd and say, even though I don't agree with the Democratic platform, I like Bernie Sanders, and this is why I like Bernie Sanders. He have a lot of he have a lot of outlandish, wild political views that I'm not gonna say I necessarily agree with. And the reason why I would say it's not that I disagree with it, but it's like even they're great ideas, but every time you ask Bernie, like, how you gonna pay for this, Bernie, he never can answer that question. But I don't hold that against him because I don't like him for that reason. The reason why I personally like Bernie Sanders, and you can actually look up old photos of going back to like the 60s and the 70s, and you could actually see Bernie Sanders literally in race riots fighting on the side of black people. So I know that about him. I can say I can stand up for Bernie Sanders in that light, and that's why I say I fuck with Bernie Sanders in that light. Now, with that being said, honestly, if Bernie Sanders was on the Democratic ticket, I'll be all Bernie Sanders, not necessarily quote unquote Democratic ticket, but I'll be all Bernie Sanders. Now, and the like you said though, for whatever reason or another, and I don't know the reason why, black people didn't stand up for Bernie Sanders. And I'm gonna tell you why that pissed me off. That pissed me off because, like I said, I look back at history and saw the man fighting on the side, like like fist fighting back in the 60s and 70s on the side of black people. So it's like I would had put this meme up on social media, but like that's how I felt about Bernie Sanders. I would have been like Denzel Washington at the end of training day. I'd have been like, man, fuck you niggas at the end of all this. That's how I'd have been if I was Bernie, like knowing that I had been to put my neck on the line for 50 years, and damn, y'all won't even stand up and put a vote out for me.
Well, so would you up about Sanders fighting on the sidelines and really being there with civil, protests and everything? What do you guys think is going to happen near or on Inauguration Day? Do you think that we're going to have a civil war on our land?
I personally
that first, Ransom. Let me answer that first. Let me just say this: if Trump supporters come out and they say we're gonna civil war, secede from the north like they did back in the 1800s when racist as Abraham Lincoln was in office. One, I will say that it's not going to happen because one, we have different technology, we have different laws intact that can stop them from doing this. Will they be upset? Probably. Do a lot of them believe that this election was stolen? Stupidly, yes, but that's what they believe, right? Because the president sits there and toast that. But I don't think that anything will happen on this election. I think what will happen is that you will have a different perspective from the White House. You actually have a White House who cares about if we're just speaking about black people, who cares about black people, who cares about minorities, who cares about making us better. I think that white people will be mad, but hey, you know what? It's kind of your turn, because for the past 400 years, we haven't been cared for. We haven't been taken care of. We have ever had a chance of freedom. And I always say this: I am not a free man. I am a liberated man. So, the Constitution doesn't speak for me. So, white folks, you be mad, be whatever it is that you want to be. But on January 20th at 12:01, there will be a new president, and whether you like it or not, he will be your president. And we will wait to see if he does things for black people, and if he doesn't, which is why I say if he doesn't, I'm not going to get my vote. But since he said that he is, then I have to give him my vote because this white man, it's not. So I'm actually excited to see what happens on January 20th. Negative is going to happen, but I think that positivity and change will come to this, especially looking at the nations that has 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, what do you think?
I've actually thought about that prior to the election. I've even spoke with a couple of friends about it. I would personally like to say I hope nothing happened. Let me first say that. But it's so much tension on both sides, And the crazy part about it, and I'm gonna say this as I was explaining it, well, having a conversation with a friend of mine prior to the election about the whole idea of a civil war. I think I think people are a little bit. I think there's a little bit of like cloudiness, or I should say, misinformation about what at least what I think this the a possibility of a civil war could be meaning. And I'll give you an example of what I mean when I say that. A lot of times, even when you say that now, and even in the context that we're speaking of, it's easy for a person to think in terms of black against white, white against black. But honestly, I really see it being deeper than that. And this is what I mean when I say that, right? I'm not speaking specifically just about black people. What this is what blows my mind about black people when it comes to this, right? Like we all have different we have our own different football teams. We have our own different basketball teams. We all have our different industries that we work in. People just among even among black people, we all have our own different sexuality. We all like it's so many different things and thoughts within the black community that we just have that we don't judge each other on. Meaning you have a Laker fan who's fucking friends with a Clipper fan. They all still go out and drink. You have a straight friend and a gay friend. They friends. They all go out and drink. Like nobody's judging each other. It's all good. It's all cool. But what I notice about black people in politics, for some strange reason,
Don't mix.
black people feel as though you have to choose one side of the fence and get
Right.
and stick on it. And if you're on the other side of that fence, then
You're cool.
automatically it's fuck the other side. But
Right.
it's not that mentality with no other group or segment or division. Not to say that there should be, but for that same reason, there should not be for the political reason too. So I say that I say all that to say this, going back to the Civil War thing. It's not as cut and dry as like I said, as people think, oh, if anything were to happen, it would be okay, black people on this side, white people on that side. I don't see it as that. Unfortunately, if anything were to happen, unfortunately, I see, and I'm speaking strictly within the black community. I see families being divided. I see friends who are no longer friends, and I say that specifically because I personally lost friends, and it's crazy because dog, you know me personally. You know, like I would never be the type of person to help a person and then go brag and talk about it. But
Right.
I say it's been people that I have actually like helped like on a personal level who have turned their back on me for my political view. But the interesting thing about it, you knew what my political views were prior to and while I was helping you. So
Right.
it's like, I say that to say, so it's like, is it really are you really that adamant about okay, you're on this side and fuck every other black person on that side? Because if that's how it is, and that's how I see it, and it's like I
It,
as a black person, I
it,
try, and that's why I like even though like I said, like a lot of people will perceive my views, see me to be a Republican. At the end of the day, if the only one thing that I want black people to walk away with what I say, what my views are, I want us to be better, and I want to help black people. That's why I hold the Democratic Party to such high responsibility for what I see them dragging and stringing black people along for a century. And
okay.
and and at the same time, I'm looking at black and like I talked to my mother today, and I told my mother is we talked somewhat vaguely about this, but I literally said people that like for people that's my and within my parents' age group and my grandparents, Like, I don't hold those people accountable, and this is the reason why I don't hold those people accountable. I understand that they come from an era and a period where information wasn't readily available. I understand that a lot of, in some cases, a lot of those people from that era, the only thing they knew was getting up working at from 9 years old. So they didn't even go to school. They didn't even have no
Right.
intellect education from that perspective. But
those
but
with more you should be doing better as far as voters awareness.
period. And,
So
and that's why I feel especially honestly I feel like especially I feel like 50 years old and under 50 and under, and that's really the demographic, the group that I'm talking about, the group and the demographic that I'm talking to, because it's no good reason for you to, like I said in the prior podcast. If you look at both, if you look at the Democratic side as a black person, you look at the Republican side and you vote Democrat. I have no gripe with you because you weighed your options. You put thought into it. My problem is with the black people who just blindly do it because they grandparent told them to do it. Their
Right.
parent told them to do it. Now they just rolling with it and they passing that garbage down to their kids.
Okay.
can I say something though? Just really quick.
Okay.
Really quick. I think when you look at the trend of the Republican Party from the time that Barack Obama was in office to the time that obviously whenever Bush was in office, I was probably 9, 10 years old. I really started getting into politics when I was about 14, right? And I'm 22. So when you look at the trend of the Republican Party, they have literally acted as if Black lives don't matter, and they've literally acted as Black lives don't account for anything. And what I mean by that is, and you want to bring, you can bring it to present day, is the stimulus package that we're supposed to have was supposed to be $600, but then Trump says no, let's bring $1,000, and then what does Mitch McConnell do? Mitch McConnell says no, right? And what has the coronavirus? What community has the coronavirus mostly impacted? The Black community. So I think everything is racist
But
whenever.
I think that there is a higher risk with the Black community versus other races. Is there a statistic chart showing that? And I'm going to tell you this when it comes to the coronavirus. If you look at those that are actually quarantining, and I've rode through neighborhoods where there's a large amount of Black people in the community still gathering at the store, still gathering at the park, still attending clubs, still attending restaurants, no mask, no social distancing, no sanitation. So when we say that it's affecting a certain community more than others, to protect yourself is one's own responsibility, right? So we can't really just blame the government. And a lot of them won't go tested because they have to believe that if you get tested, you're going to get it. So they don't even know they have it because some people are asymptomatic, but they're not showing the symptoms. And then they're spreading it and spreading it and spreading it. Even if we're sweet or whatever we're doing, even at family gatherings, everybody could be in there looking well, but it could be that one person within that bunch that's affected with COVID. No one knows. Now we all disperse, go home, we go to work. One of us could be a carrier and we don't know.
No, but it is the government's fault because when you look at it, the COVID, I say this to all my friends who listen to me because I like to speak about politics to my friends about. So I think that COVID has exposed a lot of deep, dark secrets that America did not want to get out. One being that the Black community does not have the resources that the white community does. Now, I don't think that's a secret, but it's been further exposed by COVID-19. So yeah, protecting yourself and not. Because I really hope
But
that
I agree. I agree with what you said right there.
I genuinely hope that everybody that goes to a club and doesn't have a mask on, and this come from me, I genuinely hope you get COVID so you can just experience how it feels like. I had COVID and I didn't even do nothing. I was quarantined and I wasn't going around people and I got it. You know what I'm saying? So I think it is the government's fault because we don't have the resources, we don't have the medical resources, we don't have the financial resources, and we don't have the job resources to keep us, one, busy, two, clinically available, and three, ready whenever we go to the hospital for them to take care of us. But this is what I was saying. What I was saying is this. I think and I will continue to say it, and it's probably something I repeated, past it 10 times, and it's something I can do. Dr. Claude Anderson, because he really got me thinking. And I really liked what you said, Ransom, is you said something about the black vote. And the black vote has been misconstrued to think that we think to think that we believe that we are the most important vote, and we are only 13% of this population. So how can we, right? So I think that the black community, when we're just talking about enriching and bettering, I think the black community has to come with an agenda, whether it be about COVID response, whether it be about financial response, whether it be about family assistance, whether it be about generational wealth. I think the black community has to come up with a plan in order to bring to people who are running for whatever office, in order for us to better ourselves. And me, as a young person, I don't think that the most important office in the nation is the presidential, although he has a lot of power. I think that your most important office is your city clerk and your judge and your sheriffs and the people that can direct, and your mayors, people that can directly affect you right now today if they, the struggle of a pen. So black people need to come together as a collective and make an agenda. And this is my point for this whole class. We need to come together as a collective to make an agenda to whoever is running for office to say, hey, this is what we want. And if you don't give it to us, you don't have it. My problem is that black people continue to vote for Trump, and they continue to vote for Ted Cruz, who's been in office since I've been in middle school, and to continue to vote for all these other people, and they don't have the progressive minds that young black people want, or young people want, period. And the same, that's even Nancy Pelosi, the same people that's in office and that's been in power, that's not doing anything for the young community, is really hurting us. And you have to start thinking about, okay, it's not 2010 anymore, it's 2020, and we have to start thinking about the future and what can enrich better our young. And having these same racist and Democratic or Republican leaders in office, like Mitch McConnell, like Pelosi, and in power, negatively affects it.
Okay, so to round this up so we won't run out of time, I want to shift our focus a little bit to reparations, because you kind of brought that up earlier. So let's talk about the American dream and everything, when everything started. We know that a lot of things that got this country going was from slave work, which is the railroads, cotton, and so forth. My question to you is two parts. One, do you feel companies such as companies that have benefited from cotton should pay into reparations? Railroads should pay into reparations? And if so, how do you think those reparations should be dispersed?
Well, let me answer that first. I'm glad you brought up the whole reparation thing, right? And I think I heard I think I heard Jacob mention it more than once. The idea of reparations with this whole thing, right? Now, this is what I've noticed, and I don't know if anybody else have noticed it, but I've noticed this for more than one election cycle. If you actually notice, they only talk about reparations during the election year. Not like why we the fact that we're talking about reparations right now, right, means that obviously this was something that came up in the past. So let's go back.
Well, who do you think should pay into it? Who do you think should pay into the reparations? Do you feel that companies that have reaped the benefits from slaves, such as cotton companies or railroad companies, shipping companies, do you feel that they should pay into these reparations and not just the government? And even with the Indians giving us money that we are owed from the casinos that's already been passed, do you feel
I mean, if we talk about reparation at the sense of the word, during World War II, for example, the situation that happened with the Holocaust, the group of people that were affected during the Holocaust, they were compensated by the German government. They were compensated by multiple countries' government in Europe.
To do it, not the companies that benefit.
I certainly understand the point and the logic in having the companies do it. Now, would it be the right thing to do? Yes, to have the companies do it. That would be that would be a socially ethical right thing to do. But let's be honest, that's cutting into their bottom line. So they're not gonna they're not gonna put that in the budget. They're not gonna put reparations in the budget when they gotta cut that in the marketing. So understanding that the because
Well,
it was the government who allowed this to happen.
and he passed, right? But this store has been handed down generation to generation to generation, right? So let's just say like the Hilton brand. The Hilton brand has been around for a while, so it goes down and down and down and down. So people who didn't even put into this, they still benefit from the work of people from the past. They're still benefiting the riches from old money. So you don't
Right.
feel hey, Hanes, one of the oldest cotton t-shirt
No,
company there.
I feel like that would be
Into reparations because their company has benefited from cotton forever.
no, I feel like it would be the right thing for them to do.
It was free labor, but that's old.
No, I do feel like it's the right thing for them to do from a moral and an ethical perspective, like you're saying, just based on those things that you're saying, I agree. But again, they're not
Protesting
going to
that.
say again.
Why aren't we protesting for something like that?
You know what? I think that's a valid thing to protest. I personally, I'm not. I think I think they, from a moral and ethical perspective, they should. But at the same time, the government definitely shouldn't be absolved from it because again, you got the regard from even back in that period to modern day. Regardless of what the company is, the company can only operate under the terms that the government set. So being based on the fact that the government said, hey, it's okay to instead of having donkeys and machines out here plowing your field to generate money for your company, you can have black people out here doing it. We're cool with that. There were laws on the books that said they were okay with it. Minus those laws, these companies couldn't have been out. They couldn't have brought these black people over there, forced them to work their field. So from the company is only going to go as far as the government lets them. Now, surely we don't. I mean, we all know that there were no white people who were being whipped into slavery at that period because that was a crime.
Right. So you feel that we shouldn't leave the government out, but it would be morally correct to add the companies. What do you think, Jacob?
So this is what I think. I think one, both parties need to be responsible. For what Ransom said, the government allowed this shit to happen. They allowed us to be slaves. They allowed us to be treated and separated from our families. So they should definitely be. Two, I think that companies that profited off the backs of black people should definitely be held accountable. Whether it be a cotton company, whether it be an oil company, whether it be a railroad company, these people should definitely be held accountable. When I talk about reparations, I don't think that reparations should be black people. What we want to do as a government, right? And this is me just thinking as one who, if I had the power to make Black Lives Matter and Black lives better, this is what I would do. Based off what Dr. Claude Anderson said, I would definitely set up banks to where if Ransom or if Miami Trees wanted to come in own a business, you can come to this bank and it will be under 2% to where you get 2% of interest rate to where you can come get a loan from us and you can set up generational wealth, right? Also, another thing that I want to see from the government when it talks about reparations, right? I want you to put money into the black man's hand because we deserve that. But what I also want you to do is set up the education fund, set up the healthcare, set up the job funds, better our communities, make our streets cleaner, make our streets easier to drive, set up more black businesses and things like that. So putting money into the hands of black people at this time, when we have black people have represented that we can't be trusted with money, right? When you look at welfare and how long we've been on it, I think that we need to, as the government, we need to demand from them that, hey, these are the things that we want. We want you to set up, like Dr. Clark Anderson said, a railroad system that not only generates wealth
They
through
go
the
cities.
major 5 cities, but it also generates Black wealth, right? And I also want you to add a hospital to Acres, or add a shopping centers in Acres, or add something in Acres Homes, to where it's like, you know what, I can go to Acres Homes and I can spend my money and it can help the Black community. So what a lot of Black people want is, I think it's like we are owed $0.54 billion in reparations. Really, we are owed this whole entire country, but based on what they're trying to give us, 3.5 billion, right? That shouldn't be put into the hands. I think that should be put in the banks, to where we come in and we can get a loan and start businesses, create generational wealth, build a shopping center, let us own gas stations, let us own land, because that is where our power is, because the Constitution even talks about whoever owns X amount of land, that's where the power is. It's not about how much money you have, it's about how much land you have. So let us own land, build a hospital to where we have the resources, where we are contracting the COVID-19 virus or any other virus, we have the healthcare available to help us Black people, give us more education promises, to where Black people can go to college and graduate with doctorates and become doctors and help us Black people that's infected with COVID-19 or any other virus, or give us the educational, or give us the jobs, or it's the Black community. And that for a long time has not been happening with the government. And I think we have to hold the government accountable. I think we also have to hold companies accountable. Like, effort, like, you as a cotton company have definitely built your company off the backs of Black people, and you have to pay that back to Black people, because you owe us that. And that's this country in our reality. And this is just me speaking from my 22 years later. This country owes us absolutely everything. And you look at the Constitution, and what Dr. Anderson spoke about is that the Constitution used hidden words like, let those that are impoverished, let those that are let those that don't have money, right? These are laws that apply to them, but the Constitution doesn't apply to us Black people. So I think, one, before we start talking about reparations, and before we start talking about job growth, and before we start talking about educational and health growth, talk about the Constitution and how the Constitution is not written for us, is not set up for us to succeed. And then we can move into things like that. So I'm basing my opinions based off what this conversation is supposed to be about. I'm sorry if this is off topic, but I think, for one, the first thing that Black people have to focus on is, what is it the Constitution is talking about? Is it talking about us? And if it isn't, then we have to revise those things, because when it says we the people hold these evidence to be true, is life and liberty, those things, we the people, does not apply to me, Ransom, ain't done apply to Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Mitch McConnell.
But see, I agree with you on that, but the problem is you can't prove that. Meaning from I'm speaking strictly from a paperwork perspective. I hear what you're saying, and I feel what you're saying, but speaking strictly think about it. That's the reason why they're able to get away with that doctrine, because it's worded exactly the way it's worded. It's withstood for 200 plus years with that same wording.
Okay, well, as always, before we wrap it up, I want you guys just to end this with a short session of what you would like your goal for 2021 to be for the Black community, and we'll wrap it up.
I would say the number one thing would be to think more and question more. And I think if we did those two things alone, that would push us so much further. I think we would have been so much further, like decades, centuries, because we would have questioned certain motives. We would have questioned certain agendas. We would have thought more, okay, like, well, why does this group want to do this? What does this group want from me? and what can this, and more importantly, what can and how can this group or person benefit and help us? Like my thing is, we spend so much time just digesting and just doing what we're told versus put any thought into it and questioning it. Like, and I think until that those two things change, until we put more emphasis and focus on that, we're going to continue to be stuck in the same rut, the same hole.
Okay, Jacob.
I think if we're talking about the people, and then I'll talk about myself. I think that people, we have to get to about not only about ourselves, but we're thinking about collectively as a group. I would like to, I would be, as a people, more united have been. I would like for us to be more united on voting, more united on healthcare issues, marching for only Black injustices from the police, and marching on Black injustices, the healthcare community, the education community, to the job community, to the different communities that doesn't help us. From a perspective, one thing I can work on is one, listening more than I speak, right, and being more in tune to those that and paying attention to those, and then I want to leave a legacy for my children. I ain't having children right now. You know what I'm saying? I hope that's the case. I plan on getting married within the next year or two. But you know, I want to leave a legacy for my children to where they can have some type of health on and they can be successful. I want to start building that in 2021, whether it be investing in something or saving coins to where, you know, hey, look, whenever you get out of college or, you know, you got this money to fall back on, but I want to be a better person right now for my children, my future children, than what I have been. So that's my plans. And Black people, I think, as a Black community, I think that we should start more from the government, demanding more from our local government, really, and demanding more from our judicial system as well. So that's all I have for 2020. I'm gonna spend my time getting absolutely plastered.
Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and end it out with the goal that I would like to see for 2021 as far as the community as a whole. I would like us to have more accountability. I would like us to ask more questions, to be more involved politically and culturally. I would like to see growth within generations as well as the community as a whole. I do believe that, yes, we should hold our local government more responsible because that affects us directly. The resources that you stated earlier that we lack, I think a lot of the lacking is because we don't demand. We don't have city halls. We barely use our multi-purpose centers, which that's what that's for, to have those type of meetings. We don't use our local clinics like we should because we don't have insurance, but we don't have insurance because they don't work or they don't know how to go to the resources where they can get some assistance to have that insurance so they can have those resources in their community. It doesn't do any good to have a clinic if no one is going because that's a waste of resource. I do believe that we need to look at ourselves and have more accountability so that once we know what we're doing, what we need to straighten up, we can be ready for the things we're asking for. It's one thing to say, I want you to open up for reparations and start us banks such as like the Freeman banks that they had. But then the question will be, we go in and get these banks and we go in and get these loans. Are we going to be responsible and do what we're supposed to do with that? You know, I think that there needs to be training within the community, business training. I think there needs to be financial planning training. I also feel like with our education system, starting from middle school and high school, I believe there should be more career type courses that gets those kids ready for college. And go ahead and entertain a thought of, okay, I can go to a trade school with this because I did welding starting in 8th grade. I graduated with welding, so I'm very familiar with it. So I feel more comfortable to go to a trade school or college. I did a little bit of nursing. I did a little bit of dental. So I do think that we need to go back to our local and start there and then go to our state and then think about who we put in Washington, D.C. and make sure they are working for us. As always, I love it when you guys join me because you all make this great. I love it that we can come here, debate, disagree, and at the end of the day, we're still on the same team, which is to better our community. And hopefully that those that watch us take something away from it, right? Because our last podcast went really well, over 7,000 views within a month. Whole month had even passed. So I'm very, 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 very proud of that. That means that we reached 7,000 ears, right? So with this podcast, I like to even beat that number. So I am asking people to like and subscribe. That way you can hit that notification button and you'll never miss any of our political talks. And you can tune in and comment. You don't have to agree with us. You can disagree. So guys, thanks for joining me again on this Christmas Eve. Have a great holiday. Celebrate, be merry, jolly, and whatever festivities you like. Until the next time we talk, research.
Peace.
Bye.
Happy holidays.
Same to you.
Merry Christmas, Ransom.
Same to you, man. I'm